On March 15, 2023, in Silicon Valley, California, a routine update was rolled out for a widely used logistics management algorithm developed by a major technology company, Logitech Solutions. This algorithm served as the backbone for supply chain operations for thousands of organizations across various sectors, including retail, manufacturing, and distribution. The update involved optimizations intended to enhance route efficiency and reduce delivery times, but these changes would soon initiate a cascade of failures. The initial miscalculation stemmed from a misconfiguration in the algorithm's core routing logic. During the software update procedure, an assumption was made about data input parameters that had previously been modified. This oversight led to the algorithm misinterpreting the geographic constraints vital for routing decisions. The design team, reliant on internal simulation tools, failed to integrate real-world data validation checks that could have intercepted anomalies in the updated code. Additionally, the permissions for internal testing environments allowed access to unrestrained modifications without a full review from the quality assurance team. These gaps in oversight and testing lent themselves to an efficient but ultimately flawed rollout. As the updated system went live, the first signs of failure became apparent within hours. The logistics network began showing significant delays in shipping times, leading to mounting frustration among users. Affected companies, including one of the country's largest online retailers, reported an increase in delivery estimates from an average of 3 days to nearly 10 days for thousands of packages. Internal monitoring tools at Logitech Solutions flagged unusual traffic patterns and delivery discrepancies, but initial alerts were too vague to inform of the underlying problem. Shipping delays stacked up across the network, accumulating a loss of approximately $150 million for major clients on the first day alone. The total number of affected shipments surged past 500,000, causing a ripple effect across multiple industries. Internally, the mood at Logitech Solutions shifted from anticipation to confusion. An incident channel was opened, yet the influx of messages overwhelmed the team. Initial emails circulated emphasizing the need for a rapid response, but miscommunication led to redundant efforts, with different teams attempting partial fixes without collaboration or accurate diagnostics. Some team members hypothesized that the delays were due to external factors, such as increased customer demand or logistical pressures. Meanwhile, external signals began surfacing. User reports on various platforms highlighted increased delivery frustrations. Monitoring alerts detailed spikes in customer complaints, but the technical team struggled to pinpoint the root cause. As the days progressed, minor media mentions began trickling in, focusing on how delivery companies were experiencing unprecedented delays. Analysts began to report on the emerging crisis, but without definitive evidence, the situation remained nascent and largely underestimated. Instead of a cohesive response, multiple departments within Logitech pursued different leads without a unified strategy. The support team received a surge of inquiries, amplifying the confusion surrounding the situation. By March 18, 2023, it became clear that the issue was not merely a temporary glitch. Instead, it was indicative of a systematic failure impacting operations down the line. Reports of widespread shortages in inventory hit the market, reflecting that products were stuck en route to retailers. Other players in the supply chain, including raw material suppliers and transportation partners, began expressing concern over cascading impacts. Some companies resorted to manual processes and non-integrated systems to compensate for the delays, revealing the fragility of their dependencies on Logitech's algorithm. Over the next week, the problem intensified. Resentment built within the organization as multiple teams worked in silos rather than collaboratively tackling the escalating crisis. Developers were uninformed about the operational consequences of their algorithm, while supply chain managers were unsure about the technological aspects that caused the disruptions. As key stakeholders convened to discuss the situation, they contemplated drastic measures to salvage their logistics operations, fearing irreparable damage to their relationships with critical partners. Despite the mounting evidence of systemic failure, the full scale of the losses remained obscured. It quickly became apparent that the impacts were not confined to a few shipping firms. Entire industries relied on intricate supply chains vulnerable to disruptions stemming from a single point of failure. As logistics networks faltered, resulting financial implications rippled across the global economy, with stock prices beginning to reflect growing uncertainty. On March 24, 2023, with confidence waning, Logitech's leadership faced mounting pressure from both clients and internal teams to address the crisis publicly. Senior executives arranged a press briefing to discuss the unforeseen complications arising from the recent algorithm update. They pledged to investigate the ongoing disruptions and prioritize transparency. Yet many details remained unresolved as teams continued to analyze data and assess the fallout. Through the chaos, signs of reputational damage grew, both for Logitech and their client companies, as concerns of overdependence on automated solutions were increasingly voiced in the media. In the meantime, reports surfaced of small businesses unable to receive stock necessary for daily operations, amplifying the economic instability among already vulnerable sectors. The full repercussions of the algorithmic error began unraveling, hinting towards an evolving crisis. With stakeholders left grappling for answers, the future remained uncertain as the initial failure paved the way for an unprecedented economic conundrum. The clock continued to tick, and as time marched on, more questions than answers loomed on the horizon, setting the stage for deeper investigations and broader implications. By March 30th, 2023, reports from major news outlets began to surface, confirming the extent of the ramifications resulting from Logitech's algorithm failure. Investigative journalists unveiled a timeline of events, tracing back to the algorithm update, while also highlighting the lack of internal communication and oversight. These accounts provided a clearer picture of how decisions made under pressure and without comprehensive analysis led to nationwide supply chain dysfunction. Internal chat logs obtained by investigative reporters revealed that concerns raised by mid-level managers regarding the algorithm were dismissed in early discussions. Warnings about the potential ramifications of the update went largely unheeded, as attention shifted from technological risks to immediate customer demands. The evidence suggested a culture within Logitech that prioritized expedience over due diligence, exacerbating the crisis. As the initial press coverage prompted inquiries from affected parties, companies began to issue legal notices to Logitech, citing breaches of contract and demanding accountability for losses incurred. Meanwhile, small and mid-sized businesses, which had relied heavily on timely deliveries, reported significant financial distress, with many estimated to face bankruptcy within weeks if the situation did not stabilize. Industry analysis suggested that the cumulative losses incurred from halted operations and unmet customer expectations were in the billions, raising alarms within the stock markets. By April 5, 2023, Logitech's board convened an emergency meeting to assess the ongoing fallout. Law enforcement began to show interest in the case, with regulatory bodies scrutinizing the firm's practices and potential negligence. On April 10th, after intense public and governmental pressure, Logitech announced the suspension of the flawed algorithm, citing the critical need for a comprehensive review of their software and automated decision-making protocols. As a precautionary measure, Logitech implemented immediate regulatory compliance audits of their systems and began restructuring their internal processes. They also partnered with external cybersecurity firms to assess vulnerabilities in their platforms to prevent future miscalculations. The announcement led to a wave of account bans as Logitech began severing relationships with third-party applications that integrated their logistics API and posed further risk to operations. The stark realization that widespread public backlash would soon follow prompted Logitech to engage in platform enforcement. The company offered compensatory deals to affected customers, aiming to regain faith in their services. However, these measures only provided a temporary salve as the complexity of the situation deepened. Media scrutiny intensified as deeper layers of miscommunication and failure emerged, revealing an underlying systemic risk in global supply chains that could no longer be ignored. By late April, internal revelations and analysis from external experts reached the public domain, detailing how Logitech's algorithm was not only responsible for shortages, but also for price inflation, as scarcity drove costs higher across multiple sectors. Third-party dependencies that had once been seen as strengths were now exposed as critical weaknesses in a tightly interconnected system. In response to ongoing investigations, Logitech's CEO publicly announced a comprehensive reform initiative focusing on transparency, improved communication practices, and a commitment to ethical technological governance. This period of reform saw staff resignations, including the reassignment of key executives who had failed to act upon early warnings. By May 15, 2023, the legal repercussions began to take shape, with class action lawsuits being filed by stakeholders affected by the algorithm's failure. These lawsuits framed the algorithmic miscalculation as gross negligence, seeking damages for losses incurred across various sectors. As evidence mounted against Logitech, the once vibrant market confidence eroded, resulting in a significant plummet in their stock prices. In June 2023, as further analysis exposed the depth of the algorithm's flaws and the resulting economic impact, Logitech faced an irreversible loss of customer trust. Some major clients opted to terminate contracts and seek alternatives, further exacerbating the company's financial problems. A series of restructuring plans were rolled out, but they failed to regain investor confidence. As the company struggled to innovate in the face of widespread criticism, industry experts began to predict a potential insolvency scenario. By the time the summer concluded, Logitech announced temporary shutdowns at several facilities, laying off thousands. Simultaneously, corporations utilizing their logistics services scrambled to establish contingency plans, thus highlighting the urgency of supply chain diversification. On August 1, 2023, after months of crippling financial impacts and legal battles, Logitech filed for bankruptcy, citing an overwhelming inability to recover customer trust and operational viability. The proceedings revealed that the fallout from a single decision in algorithm management had cascaded into a broader economic crisis, with no immediate resolution in sight. As investigations unfolded, various regulatory authorities formulated new guidelines for algorithmic governance in logistics and supply chain management. The repercussions extended beyond Logitech, shaking confidence in automated systems across multiple sectors. The crisis left firms scrutinizing their operational frameworks and dependencies, striving to avoid replicating Logitech's missteps. Timeframe conclusion. By late 2023, Logitech officially ceased operations altogether, with a final update marking their total collapse as a cautionary chapter in logistics history. The firm's assets were liquidated, and the implications of dependence on flawed algorithms catalyzed an industry-wide review of existing technological practices and regulatory frameworks.